I was there when Miles Morales was first created. He caused quite the controversy. I haven't really revisited Miles since then, so I decided why not see what all the commotion was about. I want to examine the Ultimate Spider-Man line and see how it developed over time and how it all ended up being so controversial. The original Ultimate Spider-Man has 3 distinct eras. The original Ultimate series, an all-time great run written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Mark Bagley. Ultimate Spider-Man is a modernization of Spider-Man mythos, taking Silver Age comics and bringing them to modern day with a more realistic approach to things that more closely resembles what you'd expect Spider-Man to look like. We follow high school era Peter Parker as he gains his powers and slowly learns day by day what it means to be a hero. The art is cinematic, the dialogue is witty, and Ultimate uses 2020 hindsight to tie all the stories together. Spider-Man's origin ties together with the Green Goblin. We see Oscorp experimenting with radioactive spiders in order to create what will go on to become the Goblin Serum, tying the Spider-Man's arch nemesis with his origins. Kingpin is a long-lasting looming threat that's always there, running criminal underworld from the shadows. We meet Kingpin's goons like Fancy Dan, Montana, and Ox before we actually get to Kingpin himself. This foresight gives the run a certain flow to things where each thing logically leads to the next adventure. With each battle, Peter becomes a little bit more mature and a bit more like the Spider-Man we know and love. I haven't read Ultimate Spider-Man in years, but after a while the run does start to run out of steam. At least for me it did. I don't remember exactly where the story begins to fall apart, but you can feel Bendis begin to spin the wheels in place. The run ends with Ultimatum. It's a massive event where Magneto attacks the world, causing a tidal wave to drown New York. The event itself kind of sucks, honestly, but the Spider-Man tie-ins are actually pretty good, and it gives us an all-time great Jameson moment in anything. We see Spider-Man saving people from the flood, and Jameson finally admits to himself he's wrong. He's been wrong the entire time. He finally admits Spider-Man is a true hero. This second half of the Ultimate Spider-Man is marked by changing artists. Bagley leaves around issue 111 and is replaced by Stuart Immonen. And for run 2, Immonen is replaced by David LaFuente. I'll be honest, I don't really like either of these replacement artists. They're both capable artists, it's just that their art styles are, not something I really like in Ultimate, and especially LaFuente kind of goes into a different direction and it just doesn't really work for me. At least we get probably the funniest official Spider-Man art of all time. Put the Mary Jane in the back and no one gets hurt. Another strike against this era is that we're still in high school. You watch these arcs happen and you just end up wondering, what are we doing here? Like, Peter should have gone to college by now, but no. In the second run, Peter's cast grows in size quite a bit, so you end up with Iceman and Torch and Gwen and MJ and Peter and Kitty Pryde, all these characters all interwoven and, kind of working together. So it becomes kind of almost like a Spider Family book, which I just don't really connect with. It's been a crazy year, huh? Like, dude, it's been almost a decade in real life. What do you mean all this took place in a year? The lack of progress is strangling the series by this point, and I think the creators recognized that, so they decided to end Ultimate Spider-Man with one more story. The death of Spider-Man. Peter Parker takes a bullet for Captain America, and while wounded, he's attacked by Green Goblin. Cap is nowhere to be seen, so Peter has to fight his nemesis all alone, and in the resulting fight, Peter dies. This was something that I don't think had been done before. It was a big thing. At least I remember as a kid being like, oh my god, you can do that? Peter Parker, we spent a decade with, dies. It's a shocking story. In Ultimate Universe, death was a bigger deal at the time. People didn't come back like they do in most comics, so it had extra weight. It was quite stunning to see. So, we get an all-time great classic run with phenomenal first half and a lot messier, but still, solid second half. Then we get a subpar relaunch, and now we get into the point of the video. The final era, when someone new takes over the mantle. Someone who has never appeared before in any media has to live up to the legacy and carry a book worthy of one of the greatest Spider-Man runs of all time. Miles Morales. The first 12 issues of the Miles Morales Ultimate Run is probably the most famous Miles Morales story still to this day. Volume 1 is Miles' origin from Spider-Bite to becoming the all-new Spider-Man. Volume 2 is the second part of his origin, dealing with Miles' supervillain uncle, Aaron, the Prowler. Prowler figures out who Spider-Man is and blackmails him to work together to take over the underworld. Miles lives in a post-Spider-Man world, so Peter's shadow looms over him. Miles is constantly compared to Peter. Miles himself feels unworthy of Peter, and the stakes are real. Spider-Man did die. Miles doesn't know if he even really wants to be Spider-Man at this point, but he's kind of pushed into it by others, like his best friend Ganke, encourages Miles every step of the way, while Miles' uncle encourages Miles to take a worse, more ambitious path. Peter's legacy is a massive part of Miles' story, and it's interesting to see. He even learns by watching old videos of Peter fighting his villains. Miles is kind of bad at superheroing. Like, he's so young and inexperienced. Miles got the same powers, except he can also turn invisible and he can shock people with Venom Blast. But those powers will only take him so far. I gotta say, the lack of passage of time hurts the story. Peter Parker was active for like a year. My channel has been active for longer than Peter Parker was. It's a bit silly, and he's spoken like he was the main character of the universe, like, you know, like when in reality Spider-Man barely started his career. I do love seeing people's reactions, and this comic does show everyone's reactions to this new Spider-Man, and it is one of the more sweeter parts of it. People are excited, some think it's the same person, others hate the new Spider-Man, some are worried Spider-Man will get hurt again. It's a different reaction than Peter always got. Everybody just always hated Peter. With Miles, they're more excited. Peter did it all alone for most part, but with Miles it feels like the whole city is involved. And early on, one of the most important influences on him is his uncle. Uncle Aaron's got 2 points about him that make him interesting. Firstly, he's not that good at what he does. Clearly capable, but he's not really some top of the line hitman or, you know, like a mob boss. He stumbles, he gets caught, his sketches malfunction. He plays it cool, so he comes across really like cool and capable, but it's all kind of just a bluff. He's kind of bad at it. The second part is that he's kind of a cool uncle to Miles. Maybe a little shady, sure. You know, like, I wouldn't necessarily leave my kids with him, but he encourages Miles to be at his best. He encourages Miles to study and be better, not to get into fights. But when Aaron finds out about Miles' powers, Miles becomes a tool. Aaron manipulates Miles, threatening to tell his parents if Miles doesn't take out Aaron's enemies. And that's unironically what he threatens him with. Like, it's a little funny, but, you know, Miles is very young. Aaron is willing to risk Miles' life. Aaron has a nicer side, but his ambition wins in the end. Miles' dad is Jefferson Davis. Jefferson was once more like Aaron, but Jefferson has left that life behind, choosing to be better for his family. Jefferson has a lot of problems with holds prejudice against superpowered people, especially mutants. After Ultimatum, there's a kind of a post-9/11 feel going on where everyone's distrustful of superpowered individuals, specifically mutants, calling people mutants and they're paranoid about it. It's kind of a more oppressive atmosphere. Miles has these two parental figures he has to choose between. The self-serving Uncle Aaron or the father Jefferson trying to be good. Miles is more easily swayed by authority figures around him than Peter was. Like, Peter had a chip on his shoulder. That's his main fault. He was a bit of a hothead. Miles doesn't. Miles is just kind of naive, a little more docile, you know, a little bit more meek. He needs that guidance of adults. Unfortunately, Miles' mom, Rio, is underwritten for some reason. Like, she's kind of there, and she's super nice. I love her. She's lovable, but she kind of gets ignored. She doesn't really partake in the plot in any kind of shape or form. Bendis finds something to do with her later, but she's a weak spot here. Lovable, but doesn't really play as much of a role into the run as Jefferson does. It's a bit weird. We kind of almost pretend Jefferson's the only one here. The arc ends with Miles deciding for himself, no, he's not going to be like Uncle Aaron. There's a falling out leading to a confrontation. Miles Venom blasts Prowler, leading to Prowler's suit overcharging and exploding. Injured Prowler tells Miles, how about that? You're just like me. What a horrible thing to say. What a terrible uncle. Okay, I'm going to say it. Whenever I see people talk about this run, and yes, that's anecdotal, but probably not reflective of the majority of people, but still, I see a lot of people downplay this run a little bit. The amount of times I've seen people say Miles isn't that interesting, or that this run isn't that good. I've even seen people say you should skip it a few times, and it's kind of shocking to me. Because personally, I can't get enough of it. Every time I finish an issue, I just really want to jump on to the next one. Miles' run has me addicted. When I first started reading Ultimate, I read like 4 volumes in a row. I had to read them. I had to see what's next every single time. I couldn't put the series down. I was addicted. Eventually, I did put it down, of course. It took me months to go through some of the later omnis because, I don't know, the series just wasn't hitting no more. That's one of the reasons why I remember it fell off. I just could see it in my reading pattern. Miles is invigorating to read. This is the most I've felt for Ultimate since those original volumes, and I think these early issues are not that far from behind from the original run. Much closer than you'd think based on like how people talk about this, at least anecdotally speaking. Granted, I've also downplayed this run before, like I'm kind of guilty of it too, but I guess I just kind of forgot how good this is. I need more. The next arc is United We Stand, Divided We Fall. Hydra steals a bunch of super soldiers' serums and equipment from S.H.I.E.L.D., with its new arsenal of high-tech weapons, war machines, and giant women. Hydra makes their move and attacks the United States. United States goes under martial law with checkpoints all over, civilians are detained. Miles joins the Ultimates and fights in the new superhuman war. Miles just got done with his origin, now he's fighting a war? Like, I don't know, like that's a bit of a jump, you know. But we are over a decade into Ultimate Universe, so I guess it makes sense to throw Miles into the bigger side of the universe, you know, relatively quickly. Miles meets the Ultimates, but mainly really interacts with two of them. The first one being Captain America. Ultimate Cap is, infamous for being a bit unlikable. After the death of Spider-Man, you know, he's kind of feeling guilty. He's ashamed for failing the best of us. And now there's a new child running around fighting crimes and spinning webs. He wants to make amends. To my shock, the late stage Cap, this is actually kind of good. Like, I don't know. Like, he treats others better. He's more reasonable. He shows more humility. Cap finds Spider-Man to talk him down from superhero life. He does it in a kind of a respectful, calm-mannered way. Something you wouldn't really see in his previous appearances. At least from what I remember. You know, like, I haven't read it in years, but maybe he always was cool, but going by memory, he always felt more like a parody of Captain America. This feels more like a proper Captain America, and I really do prefer this take a lot. He's genuinely a good character here. The other Ultimate is Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman. Jessica was created during the original Ultimate Spider-Man, but after her creation, she just kind of dips out and is not seen after that, like at least in Ultimate Spider-Man. Now she's back, and Miles interacts with Jessica much more than Peter ever did. In fact, Jessica mentors Miles during this run. She's the one giving Miles his black and red costume, I believe. She checks up on Miles regularly, gives him pep talks. She's Miles' link to these veteran superheroes, and I think she's one of the standout characters here. She's generally kind of interesting. She's kind of a mirror of Peter Parker, and another way Peter's oppressive shadow looms over Miles. United Divided, honestly, it kind of works. It's another 2 volumes that are super fun to devour. It's cool to hate Bendis nowadays, and sometimes his writing definitely has it coming, but I think some people forget just how good Bendis can be, even in the 2010s. Miles may vary. Looking at the dialogue in this, there's 2 observations on it. One is that it's genuinely funny. Hey, I love you. Love you too, Mom. Congratulations. It's a teenager. I mean, that's generally just kind of funny. Like, oh yeah, it's like there's a lot of moments where I just breathe out of my nose or chuckle to myself. Like, Bendis is generally a funny writer, and this stuff does hold up a lot of times. Bendis does have a flaw where he has a limited amount of ways people speak. I don't think it's that much of an issue. Ultimately, I do really like these books. This is still pretty good dialogue for the most part. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm coming from like 60s, 70s, 80s comic books, so it is a major improvement to me. It's like about the best way you can read Bendis. Read the old and then you come back here. But at least to me, I still believe this is great dialogue, better than most writers. But as this book grows on, and especially even like the original Ultimate Spider-Man had this thing where the cast grows in size, and I don't think he has enough interesting voices, you know, interesting dynamics to support so many characters. A lot of them sound similar. Gets a little samey after a while. I do love the bigger cast elsewise, and I do think it really works for Miles' story, and I love the action it brings to the Ultimate book. This is a fun book to read. I think it has fantastic action. The artists absolutely nail it, but I do have something that really annoys me. There is a major issue of overuse of Venom Blast. Like, it's a cool power, I really like it, but it's used as a super cheap win button. Like, it's basically an ultimate move. Like, Miles just uses it to defeat the bad guy almost every single time. Without a proper cost, it becomes overpowered and thus kind of annoying. Like, Miles doesn't even have to use it in a particularly interesting ways, or he doesn't get creative with it. Like, he just kind of goes and taps them, and it's like, win. Either the villain should be able to take out the blast, adapt to it, or there should be some sort of cost to balance it out, something to make it interesting. But as it stands, it's used until it becomes kinda lame. During this arc, Marvel released an additional issue, 16.5, about Betty Brant. The issue follows her as she investigates the new Spider-Man. She narrows Spider-Man's identity to Morales'. Morales? She figures Spider-Man can't possibly be 13 years old, so Spider-Man must be Jefferson Davis. Oof. Almost got it right. Embarrassing since every other character gets it right. You know, about the secret identity, it's kind of a joke during this one, at least to me, it comes across very humorous. Everybody figures out Miles' identity, like, immediately. They look at him and they're like, you. Like, it's kind of funny. Like, they will have this massive conversation with dozen people in a room, and it's just everybody knows Miles. He's horrible at keeping the identity. Betty feels like Bendis poking fun at the concept of secret identities by having this journalist be the only one who didn't put it together. Like, she's investigating, puts a lot of time into this, a lot of thought. She's super confident about it too. Betty is gonna sell this information forward, but before she can, she's attacked by a mysterious creature, Venom. Here's a fun little nugget of information you'll probably never use in your life. The movie Into the Spider-Verse is pretty good. If you watched it and decided to read the comics, you would have discovered the movie is not like the comic book. A big inspiration for the movie is the original Miles Morales' run, specifically volumes 1 and 2, and this next story, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a side story that happens during the run where an alternative universe Peter Parker is stranded in Miles' universe and they have to work together to defeat a bad guy or two, and they bond over their shared responsibility. Peter mentions Miles a bit, Peter meets the whole supporting cast. The highlight of the story is in issue 4 where Peter meets the old supporting cast. Like, you get this scene where everybody's just hanging out and talking about being Spider-Man and all these crazy adventures. And it's a little emotional, I'm not gonna lie. It's a goodbye to the character. A sweet farewell to give closure to the characters and give it to us. Spider-Man issue 4 is honestly one of my favorite issues of the entire Ultimate line. It's really good. After that, we return to Venom War. Venom has beef with Spider-Man and has come to the conclusion Jefferson Davis is the newest webhead. So Venom tries to kill Miles' dad, while Miles tries to prevent casualties before things get out of hand. This Venom is less efficient than the last one, more monstrous in design. He's more liquid. When he's punched, his head comes half off and then slides back into place. When he's done, he turns to goo and goos down a sewer crate. Like, it doesn't seem like Eddie Brock. So who is this new symbiote? Like, why is it here? It's a mystery. Ooh. One of my favorite perspectives in this new Ultimate run is with the old cast. Miles doesn't know MJ, Gwen, and May, so he kind of keeps his distance to them. You know, from time Miles' path crosses with them. They come in as characters and they're like, hey, how you doing? MJ has become more of a recluse, keeping her distance from Gwen. She rarely talks to Miles at all, like, ever. May and Gwen have grown super close with May adopting Gwen. Gwen was a bit of an edgelord during the original run. She has dropped that by now, and she's grown to become the one Miles talks to the most. Like, she is like the specific old character that he is here the most. She gives him advice, encouragement, and serves as Miles' link to Peter. I like this perspective. Like, Miles isn't dragged down by the old cast. He has his own people and own characters. But we still get that so satisfying continuity from the old comic. And I find that the run finds a sweet spot between the old and the new. It's another reminder of Peter's shadow. Miles compares himself to Peter constantly, and everybody else does. The shadow of Peter Parker is unavoidable. Every time somebody calls him Spider-Man, there's a reminder of his imposter syndrome. Most of these villains are tied to Peter Parker somehow. Peter Parker is almost like this mythical figure that Miles can never live up to, because that's how the world perceives Spider-Man. We know, at least if you read Ultimate, that Peter messed up a lot. He was constantly scared, he failed, he was human. No different from Miles. People don't recognize exactly how much Peter struggled. They only remember his successes, never his failures. One of my favorite classic issues of Ultimate is Peter's first meeting with Doctor Strange. I believe it's issue 70 and 71. Peter goes on a spiritual visions of his fears and anxieties, one of which is the fear of failure. He will get people hurt. He will get people he cares about hurt. When he wakes up, he just panics and runs away. The issue ends with Peter locked in the basement, just vibing to the existential fear of inevitable failure. MJ knocks on the door, but he can't bring himself to open. He doesn't even answer. He just sits there, scared. Peter was never great like how the world perceives him. And I love the contrast being forced upon Miles. Like, Miles is slowly realizing he can do this despite how he feels. And that's relatable. Like, you know, greatness is often nothing but an illusion. It's a realization everybody must face eventually. It's difficult. It's real. Somehow in all of this, Jameson's character ends up being a highlight. Jameson is traditionally one of the least evolved Spider-Man characters. Like, you know, like in the comic books, he's a great character, depending on the writer. But he's often stuck playing a very specific role in the series, and especially since J.K. Simmons gave his performance, he's kind of become a bit one-note character, related to that one specific thing. This Ultimate run is one of the modern examples of Jameson who is more interesting than that. It's been a year since the death of Peter Parker, and he's starting to come to terms with the part he played in ruining Spider-Man's name. He's far calmer. He holds his reporters back from writing under-researched articles on Spider-Man. He's protecting the new Spider-Man. He's making up for his sins, and this is some of the most interesting Jameson stuff, honestly. Venom War ends with one of the biggest moments in the series. At the end of the story, Miles' mom is caught up in the crossfire and she dies to a stray bullet. It isn't Miles' fault. It's not something he could have really prevented. It's a tragedy that's inevitable when you're doing something dangerous. He loses his mom and uncle. Two for Ben special. I love this moment where Miles awakes in the morning and for a moment, he thinks it's a normal morning calling out to his mom, only to be faced with what happened. I love this moment. He has a breakdown. He just retreats to his room and he just doesn't know what to do. So he tears his costume, screaming, "No more!" You'll never guess what the name of the next arc is. 1 year later. Miles has moved on from superheroes. He's living a regular life, dating a girl named Katie Bishop, and the fact that she's called Katie instead of Kate annoys me more than is reasonable. All that peace and quiet comes to a stop as a new duo, Cloak and Dagger, start running around and a massive conspiracy reveals itself, forcing Miles to decide how far his responsibility truly goes. I'm so sick and tired of Spider-Man No More. I've seen this story way too many times. I hate every single variant, cover, and homage. Is it unfair to hold a grudge against a story because there is an oversaturated market? I don't know. I don't care. I hate how many times we do this. I hate how many times I've had to do this. There's a limitation on what you can do here. Man, it's the same exact beats every time something goes wrong. Spider-Man quits, life is good, crime happens. Oh no, Spider-Man decides he has to pay the price because the responsibility isn't about what you want. It's about what you can do. Symbiote arcs have more variety, so even though that's, more adapted, it's like, it can go to a dozen different directions. A lot of people don't use the opportunities, but there is potential there every single time. No More, it's kind of the same thing every time. There's not a whole lot of ways to do this arc. To be fair, this one is a good arc. Like, it's well written. Miles is now older, showing Bendis learned from his mistakes on doing his original Peter Parker run. It gives Miles some great development. He's more self-assured, no longer relying on others telling what to do. No More is a legit great arc, like finishing off Miles' origin years, but it sucks how overused this story has become, and it's a little difficult to not see it as just another one. Cloak and Dagger are a bit more inspired as a choice. Like, you don't see them running around in every run. Now, I'm one of the few weirdos who love Cloak and Dagger. I even made a video about their original appearances, so I'm happy. Cloak and Dagger are kids who were kidnapped and experimented on. Those experiments give them superpowers, and now they try to get revenge on the people who did this to them. Ultimate emphasizes their youth. They act and talk younger than in the main universe. Yes, a lot of Bendis speak. They are more wholesome, I feel like. In the original ones, they're kind of brooding. Here, they're more openly in a relationship, which was not a thing for a while in the main universe. They're not as blood hungry. Instead, they just want to take down the corpos who did this. I'm not entirely sure how much I like their art. Like, I think they look great in here. Like, I'm not fully in love with them being literally light and dark, but it's a cool alternative take on them. I love Cloak's darkness specifically, how it looks like in action. It's more like fog with transparent lines and twirly borders. That part looks super cool. His teleportation is some of my favorite art from the run. It just looks really cool. I really appreciate Cloak here. Another highlight is Bombshell. She can blow things up with her powers, like literally. That's the thing. Flick a finger, thing explodes. She was a joke character during Peter's run, like a joke. The joke was that she curses a lot. She wasn't very interesting. Here, Bendis expands on her, gives her more emotional story. Her mother was experimented on by the same people who experimented on Cloak and Dagger. Bombshell has no place to go, her mom's in prison, and, there is no one else. She finds a common goal with the other heroes, and maybe she learns she can be a hero too. It's a redemption for one of Bendis' weaker characters, and I don't know, I think that's nice. Spider-Man No More, it's kind of a boring setup, but Cloak and Dagger's crusade is a highlight that I find out the ones behind everything is Roxxon Corporation. Roxxon is revealed to have been behind everything. The rampaging symbiote, they hired Prowler to steal the radioactive spider. Roxxon takes the place of Oscorp as this big, shadowy organization that ties together all the different villains. A bit repetitive, as Peter already had this with Oscorp, but, it is a good finale for the first part of Miles' Spider-Man career. It's a little bit of a retread, brings it down a little bit, but it's still good. Yeah. Miles got Uncle Ben. He fought in a war, fought Venom, got Uncle Ben again. He's been no more. By the end of this, Miles is now Spider-Man. Proper, dedicated, experienced, and he truly believes it, and he wants it. I am Spider-Man. No More is the end of Miles' first volume, and it's a banger of a run, to be honest. I really like it. It's not as good as the original Ultimate, but it's better than the second half and the relaunch. It's a bit of a return to the form, and a great sequel to the original Ultimate. But wait, it keeps going. Why does it keep going? Should I be worried? I don't see why would there be more. Why do you keep going? Cataclysm is a massive event dealing with the coming of Galactus. He drops down on New Jersey and begins to destroy the planet. The threat is so catastrophic, all the new Ultimate books must deal with. I hate events, like I really do, but I do like how Ultimate Universe plots them out. They don't feel as disruptive like as they often do in the main universe. Cataclysm follows the conclusion of Miles' origin era, so it's a perfect way to force him to deal with a force that's more of a force of nature than an actual villain. He spends his tie-ins just saving people, akin to how Peter Parker dealt with Ultimatum. The Spider-Man tie-ins hard focus on Spider-Man's perspective, and there's not too many of these events in Ultimate Universe. I think that kind of helps it to feel more natural. It is a big deal because it is relatively rare, ignoring United Divided. These aren't the best issues of Spider-Man, but I enjoyed them enough to make it through. There's not a whole lot to them, but it's cool. If you jump onto the main Cataclysm event after finishing the tie-in, you can read the last 2 issues without worrying about the rest too much. It flows well from the perspective of someone who's only reading Spider-Man. Cataclysm is okay, didn't annoy me. After Cataclysm, Ultimate Spider-Man relaunches as a new series. There's no real difference between the series. Issue 1 is just sell best, so they won a 1. That's pretty much it. It's dumb and Marvel shouldn't have relaunched. They could have just continued the previous book, that's too much to ask for when issue 1 money on the table. Miles is now fully developed Spider-Man, so he can finally face his final test. Norman Osborn, the villain who managed to kill Peter Parker, is back, and it's now up to Miles to deal with Peter's greatest villain. The other complication? Peter Parker is also back. Why are there dead men running around? It's a mystery. Ooh, it's a big story, so how does it do? I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. The quality of the writing is largely the same it was for the last 30 issues. It's good, it's funny, it's, got great action. It feels like things are progressing, it's a good book. But on the other hand, there's the weird choice of resurrecting Peter Parker. Norman Osborn, yeah, makes sense. I'm fine with that. Batman Beyond did it, so it must be the correct storytelling choice. Green Goblin's the perfect final exam, but Peter Parker? It feels cheap. It feels like a slap, honestly, towards the idea of progress in Ultimate. It feels like the rot that cheapened 616 is starting to settle in. I really, really, really don't like this choice. It's done so Peter's cast can have some resolution again, but I already got that in Spider-Man. Like, we had a beautiful story about moving on from loss and getting a final goodbye despite that. Why would you ruin it? Peter's whole story is about responsibility, and he abandons it after everything? Like, what? Like, right after Spider-Man No More arc? Come on. I don't think this necessarily ruins the run. The arc is actually pretty good for everybody else but Peter. He single-handedly brings it all down quite a bit. I hate this story so much. It's such a horrible choice. I hate it. They risk it and they completely misfired. It is horrible. I do think the issue looks really good. I love how Goblin look. Peter's red and blue shirts are a really cute touch. And I love the art style. It's something that I really think pulls Miles Morales' run together. After Bagley left, Immonen kind of does this art style. I just don't connect with it as much. Peter looks weird there and I don't like it. I just can't connect with it. Then La Fuente comes in and pushes this new era upon the book that is much more manga inspired, a lot more simplified, a lot more cartoony with expressive actions. Spider-Man himself looks kind of tiny and kind of weird with massive eyes. It brings out the family aspect of the book really well. It kind of makes it more comedic. I couldn't connect with it, and it kind of killed the book for me. The problem with La Fuente and to a degree Immonen was that their art didn't really feel like the Ultimate Universe. Ultimate Spider-Man looks like movies, and this is a core part of the appeal. Realistic, but they imitate real life. It is what was set for the universe. Miles has 4 different artists coming in, and out of the series, David Marquez and Sara Pichelli capture that Ultimate feel perfectly. Both have their own identities, but they always feel like Ultimate. In the paneling, the flow, the tone, I love their take on the universe, and I think they're on equal footing with Bagley, at least for most part, with just how much I love their art. This is some of my favorite art for Ultimate. I really love every aspect. The emotions, the faces, the characters, their poses, the action, the flow, the paneling. They both nail it perfectly. There's few guest artists in there too. Pepe Larraz, who's working on Joe Kelly's 2024 run on Amazing Spider-Man. He still kind of manages to make it feel correct. Like, I don't know what the difference is, but I'm digging Larraz here. The other one is Chris Samney, who goes for this flatter cartoon look, which is my least favorite out of the new crew, but I don't know, I still prefer him to Immonen and La Fuente. The penultimate story is a bit of an odd one. I didn't care for the pitch. Miles' dad has a secret origin story, and he now sits down to share it with us. Doesn't sound very interesting, but it's honestly better than it sounds. When Jefferson was young, he was a bit rougher. He used to do crime with Aaron. Jefferson was caught and ran into no other than Nick Fury. Fury offers Jefferson a deal. There's something bad happening and Fury needs an inside man to help figure it out. Jefferson accepts. Jefferson goes undercover, works as a muscle for mobsters. He does some messed up things, and he's good at it. Good enough to be noticed. He works his way up the ladder until we come around full circle. Jefferson gets the attention of a new kingpin of New York, Wilson Fisk. Honestly, kind of a sweet sequence where we return to Kingpin and his goons. Fancy Dan, Montana, and Ox make a cameo. We watch Kingpin, one of the original big bads. The shadowy, ever untouchable villains is rising to power. This is before Spider-Man or Goblin. This story is kind of a nice taste of how the world used to be almost 200 issues ago. The superhuman stuff is there. It's creeping into the world where we see mutants, but it hasn't yet exploded the way it has during Miles' time. After the mission, Jefferson is offered a permanent position with S.H.I.E.L.D. Help fight the evils of the world. Jefferson declines. He'd rather get away and start a new life, a more peaceful one, away from the violence. He dedicates himself to his family. He is the Morales who walked away. He no more'd himself permanently. Miles faces the same choice. Miles, on the other hand, chooses to be the hero. I think there's a neat connection between them two. I love seeing Miles and his dad bond over these things. They've had difficulties between them, and it's a beautiful story. You see them sit down and connect. I kind of love this ending. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, that's not the ending. That is followed by the true finale of the run and all of Ultimate Spider-Man. There are some expectations on this. I want it to be extra good. You can't be decent, you gotta be good. The final arc is focused on Miles' girlfriend, Katie. Miles visits her, and he's knocked out and kidnapped. Katie's family, they're Hydra. They're back for one last attack on the free world. With Miles kidnapped, it's up to the friends and family Miles has been making through the run to rescue Miles and save the free world. God bless. The first 30 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, I thought were fantastic. Honestly, it's quite close to the original run in quality. I love those issues. No More gives a perfect ending to young Miles. The relaunch, by far, clearly weaker, but I still like the two previous storylines, you know. Unfortunately, the last one, it is the biggest wink in all of Miles' catalog. I don't care about Katie. I don't understand why she cares for Miles or why Miles cares for her. She's just kind of there. I don't think Bendis was very interested in her, thus I'm not either. Apathy takes the punch out of the story and it cripples it right away, and the story seems self-aware about it. Miles' dialogue seems to be played for laughs, and he himself doesn't really seem too sad about the whole thing. He's angry, but that's it. If Miles never cared for Katie, why did we do her storyline in the first place? Her entire character feels kind of pointless. Why was she here? Why were we here? What was the point? The big bad of the story, the one leading Hydra, the final villain of all of Ultimate Spider-Man, is Doctor Doom. I don't know much about Doctor Doom, but this feels so wrong to me. In the main universe, he's a Romani who lost his parents due to prejudice. Hydra is, I think Doom wouldn't be the last person to team up with something like Hydra, but, maybe this all makes sense. I'm not exactly the Doctor Doom expert. I didn't read Ultimate Fantastic Four, but I don't know, man. I don't think I would like it even if it's someone else. It just feels wrong to use his image with Hydra. At least to me, it's just it. Miles fights a lot of recycled villains like Scorpion, Venom, Goblin. This all works for me as it forces you to compare Miles to Peter's legacy. That's kind of a big part of this story. Miles growing away from that. Now that Miles has graduated, it would be far more fitting to go against a real, original villain. Someone worthy of a proven Spider-Man. A Fantastic Four villain? Now that's just odd. Hydra is not a terrible arc. I don't hate it per se, but man, it's a letdown. Especially after the first run was so good. Honestly, the Norman Osborn story, with Peter Parker, I more passionately dislike it, but it is more interesting because of that. Here, this is just kind of nothing arc. I just don't care. I can't help but to wonder if Ultimate Spider-Man didn't relaunch at all. We just left off with him saying, I am Spider-Man. Would people remember these issues more fondly? Did the relaunch sour people on the run? The actual ending scene is also really unsatisfying. After almost 200 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles and the gang escapes to a rooftop. Before they have time to celebrate, they look up in the sky and we see another Earth. Ultimate Universe is colliding with the 616 universe. Everything dies, and this all leads to Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars. After that, Miles Morales moves on to 616 universe for future runs, and that's a whole different beast. I personally kind of loathe universe hopping, but I'm not gonna talk about that here. I'm gonna get out my big take. Miles is in this quite an odd place where the character feels distinct from Peter. He's got new powers, different relationships, new artists. His story specifically does mirror Peter's. He's younger and he has a legacy to live up to. Despite all of that, this is more of the same. He doesn't feel as distinct as many people would want. It's not a bad thing in a sense that it ruins the book. It's a great book worth anyone's time, but it doesn't build Miles up to be a household figure. I don't think Miles was ever meant to be as big as he became. I think as a sequel to Ultimate Peter, Miles gets the job done perfectly. Miles doesn't feel bigger than Ultimate Spider-Man, and that's okay. He wasn't meant to, and honestly, if they deviated too much, I don't think he'd be successful. After the weak relaunch before, I think you needed something familiar but different, just like this. The team does a fantastic job, and I don't think people are always quite fair to this book. In hindsight, it's always obvious, but it's not so obvious when you're the first one to do it. Ultimate wasn't in a good place. Bendis introduced an entirely new Spider-Man and cast while Ultimate line was way past its prime. This creative team, Bendis, Marquez, and Bagley, and the rest, risked everything. And they managed to put out a fantastic comic that lives up to the legacy of one of the greatest runs of all time. I honestly think Miles Morales' Ultimate run is one of the better Spider-Man runs of all time, standing next to the original Ultimate and Ditko and other great runs with pride. It's dare I say, even possibly underrated in the larger scheme of things, as this run doesn't really get brought up that often, unless somebody wants to talk about Rage, which honestly is kind of boring, because the character is so much more than that. I'm glad after so many difficulties, Ultimate Spider-Man had one more all-timer left to give us.